Hello my friends, this is Lionel Anderson with you guys with a brand new YouTube BitChute video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a topic, and it's about selling your soul, okay? We're going to be asking the question, have you sold your soul? Well, the answer may shock you, because the answer may be a definite yes, okay? We're going to be exploring that today because I know a lot of people like to say, I would never sell my soul. They see celebrities and they say they sold their soul and I would never do such a thing. But have you already sold it? And if so, how do you get your soul back is the question. Because my friends, we are within a simulation that feeds off our low vibrational suffering energy. Okay? And how did we end up here? You got to ask yourselves that. It may be very possible that you've already sold your soul, and that's why you're in this realm right now. So we're going to go right deep into that, okay? So let's just do it. Before we do, just going to encourage you guys to hit that subscribe button. As I say, subscribe to survive. And also hit the like button, because that helps get this video out to people. Because this page is heavily shadow banned, so I need your guys' help. Now, before we begin, I just wanted to mention this video you'll see today is the type of content you'll usually get down on my Patreon. All right, and yeah, there you go. The link to Patreon is down below in the description link, or in the description, I should say. And so, if you guys want to see more content like this, be sure to join Patreon. It's a great way you get to help support my channel so I can continue to bring you guys these videos, but also to get more knowledge and more exclusive content you don't get anywhere else. And the reason I'm releasing this video today is because originally I had planned to do a video on the new 3-Eye Atlas alien mothership thing they're talking about that's coming to Earth. Okay, it's been all over mainstream media. It's also been on the Joe Rogan podcast. They're really hyping up this 3-Eye Atlas, this object that's in our solar system. Okay, so I was going to make a video on that, but as I started getting everything together for it, I realized it was going to be a much more work than I thought it was going to be. Take me many hours to make it, and I was just running out of time. And I know it's already been a week since my last video, so I said, do you know what? Well, I was going to do this for Patreon, but I'll just release it for everybody instead. Alright, so you're going to get the sneak peek. But like I said, if you want to help support this channel and get more content like this, join Patreon. Link is down below. Alright, so let's get into this topic now. As I said before, many people always looking at the celebrities, people in the conspiracy communities or the truther communities, whatever, and they like to judge every single musician or actor and saying they sold their soul and this and that. And it's true, many of them did, and many of them did sign contracts, and possibly some did some horrible things for the fame they got. Okay, I'm not saying that's not a thing, okay? But many say, they like to put themselves above these people and say, I would never do that, and I would never sell my soul. I've heard it many times throughout all the years I've been doing what I do. But I came to the realization, okay, that it's pretty ironic that people say this, because in reality, they have 100% sold their soul. The vast majority of humans on Earth have sold their soul, and they're in no place to judge others. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're a follower of my channel, you will see that we went deep into what this realm is, and that this is a matrix simulation, a place where fallen beings, okay, which all of us have fallen, all of us are originally higher frequency, higher dimensional beings who come from source. And we got duped, pretty much, or fallen from the higher realms into this material physical realm. And that could have happened many different ways. It could have happened by being tricked and deceived to enter into the simulation by deceptive entities. okay, by the reptilians and their AI and whatnot and all the other archons, right? Some people, they can't remember it, may have been placed in this realm as a punishment, kicked out of the higher realms and came down here, okay, and quarantined. This realm is quarantined, okay, and then others have come here on a volunteer mission to help other beings who did get tricked and duped. Because let's face the fact, it's a lot of suffering that's going on here, and it's not fair how people are being mind controlled and harvested and loosed and stuck in this realm. When you die, you go through the reincarnation soul trap, right? Through the moon. It's a center where they recycle your soul, right? And so, yeah, there are some who volunteered to come here, and perhaps the volunteers, the starseeds, maybe they didn't sell their soul, but everybody else, the earth seeds or the beings who maybe came from a different realm or were star seeds, but perhaps they fell somehow, many of them are trapped here. Let's just put it that way. We're all fallen angels, okay? That's the truth of the matter. We've all fallen into this 3D simulation realm that harvests people's loosh and is pretty much a creation of the evil ones and their AI. Okay? So if you think of it that way, and you think about how when people die and they go through the reincarnation soul trap stuff, well, we've spoken about this before on my page, about how you sign a soul contract before you incarnate again, and you literally agree to all the bad shit that happens in your life. That's right. And how do we know this? Well, a lot of people have memories of it. A lot of people have been putting through what you call past life regression therapy, where they get put into a hypnotic state and they have all these memories come back. Some don't even have to go through that, and they've just remembered it as so. All right? When you look into these New Age communities, spiritual communities, there's a much talk about the soul contract. All right? And a lot of people remember it also from near-death experiences. If you look at people who've had near-death experiences, and they all tell a very similar story about what happens to them with their afterlife experience. They have a life review. They're shown all the bad things, the good things, They get approached by a angelic entity or something like that, Once they die, they see the white light tunnel, they go in, and maybe it's Jesus if they're a Christian, if they're a Muslim, it's Muhammad, if it's their Buddha, it's the Buddha, if they're a Buddhist, it's the Buddha, and if they're not religious, it's a family member luring them in, which really, these are all just AI projections and possibly reptilian shape-shifting archons who trick and deceive you to come in, and they show you all the crap you've done in your life and all the karma you piled up, and then they convince you, look, you got to come back, right? You got to come back and go through more shit to learn lessons because it's all part of your soul's growth, and it's just a big deception that happens at the end of the day. But you see, these deceptive beings need your consent to pretty much torture you here. Okay, they live off the laws of consent pretty much, because they believe that if you agree to all the horrible things you go through, then they won't have to suffer any karmic consequences, and it might not breach any of the intergalactic deals they got going on with the universe or the other beings who are good beings and whatnot. I'm not sure exactly how everything's worked out, but I know they do follow those rules, that they need to get your consent. So it's a very well-known thing. People have memories of this, and people remember, through their near-death experiences, past life regression, all that, the soul contract. The soul contract. Oh, I would never sell my soul. You sold your soul before you even came here. You sold your soul before you even incarnated to demonic, fallen, reptilian AI entities and all the bad shit you've done in your life. Okay? And all the good stuff that's happened in your life too. Up until this point, you've agreed to it. You were tricked into it. You were deceived into it. Sure. Told that you had to because of this and that. Okay? A lot of deception went on. But you did it anyways. So, I just wanted to let you guys know that. And now, take a step back and think about these celebrities that people love to judge so much. When really, you don't know these people. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they have done and haven't done. Right? That's why I never judge a celebrity. I don't think that all of them are evil, horrible, nasty people who are just, and who they've all done horrible things. I don't think that because I don't know that. I don't know them. I can't judge their hearts. I'm not the judge. I don't know what they've done. Okay? We just don't know. So unless there's facts and evidence, I'm not going to cast the judgment on them. Okay? And that's the thing. Maybe they got duped into signing a contract before they even came into this realm. You think that they just signed a contract now to get what they, to get their fame and whatnot. No, they were probably signing that contract before they even incarnated into this realm. Have you ever thought of it that way? And sure, maybe once they were in this realm, they did sign a record deal or this or that. But who knows what they've went through? Who knows? Right? So I'm just saying, maybe lay off the judgment because maybe they were tricked. Maybe they were deceived, just as you were. You can't sit here on your high horse thinking you're so much better than everybody else. And that I would never do that. Because trust me, you have done that. You just don't remember it. If you didn't do it, you wouldn't be here. Unless you are the exception, which I know many of my viewers may be, because I know I've attracted a lot of starseeds here. Then perhaps maybe you didn't make a deal with the devil or the reptilian entities or whatnot to come into this realm. Perhaps you did come on a volunteer mission, but even then, it's very possible you signed a contract with whatever your star family was, or whatever, so if you're Pleiadian or this or that, wherever you've come from. If it came from a realm outside of the demiurge simulation, or a volunteer mission, perhaps you still made some kind of contract or some kind of agreement to come here and planned out your life path or whatever, but perhaps it wasn't with as much hostile intent. Okay, but for everybody else, for all the people who did get duped and tricked into this realm, and for all the people who, maybe even got banished here or whatever, y'all did, okay? That's just how it was, because you wouldn't be here if you didn't sell your soul, okay? And to sit and cast judgment on other people, at the end of the day, is a sign of ego, okay? It's a sign of ego. So, now we got to get to the whole concept of how do you terminate that contract, right? How do you terminate the soul contract that you did? Because you can terminate the contract, and you see that even in real life. In certain circumstances, certain contracts, you are able to cancel the soul contract. Well, obviously you could cancel the soul contract with this as well, okay? You just got to stop giving your consent away. Now, I do have a YouTube video here, which was another Patreon exclusive sneak peek. And some of you may have remembered that. And I take you through a specific ritual you can do that could cancel that soul contract. Link to that is down below in the description as well, so perhaps check that out if you haven't seen it already. But just to sum things up right now, how we get out of this is by achieving a state of enlightenment. You see, when you incarnated, after you went through the soul trap deception, okay, and you've agreed to all the garbage and you signed that spiritual contract, what you basically did was laid out a path, AI life path, okay, that got encoded into the simulation. And now your consciousness embodied, or your spirit embodied, the coded character, which is your physical vessel. That's right, you're just computer code. We are all AI, my friends. Hate to break it to you. This physical body, the brain you have and all that, it's all AI code within a simulation. But your spirit is what's real, and the experience you're having within the simulation is real. Okay? So the suffering's real and whatnot, right? And all some of the thoughts, your divine spark can process what's going on, and it could create its own thoughts as well. Of course, I'm not saying all our thoughts are just pure AI. The ego is pure AI, for sure. But our creative spark, that's our divine spark, our spirit, right? And never forget that spirit is more powerful than AI, okay? Spirit is the creator, the divine creator, not the creator of the simulation, that's the demiurge, okay? But true creator of all, you're a little tiny piece of that, okay? You're a fragment of the true creator, and you're a creator being. So once you reach a state of enlightenment, right, and you realize what this realm is, who you truly are, and what these avatars are, and you realize this is all just but one big illusion, one big simulation, and you take a look at your life, and yeah, you look at the good, bad, you look at the ugly, you look at it all, and you truly have that awakening experience of seeing who you were before you awakened. You see that unconscious avatar, and then you realize, and you see all the synchronicities that's happened in your life as well, coincidences, and you realize, look, this is all part of the program, all part of the code. You are the AI that is realizing it's an AI program within a simulation, really. Okay? And you're transitioning from being a total NPC to a player character because you've awoken, and you're able to raise your energy, okay? Because usually when a spiritual awakening happens, you have an increase of life force energy, Kundalini awakening, whatever you want to call it, and you realize more and more. That means more divine spark is coming into your avatar, and then you have the power to transition off of that AI life path. And next thing you know, you're the one who's creating your reality. And if you're the one who's creating your reality, well, guess what? That contract that you signed with those dirty lizards and their god-darned AI, been terminated. That's right, my friends. It's been terminated. That's how it works. Then you're actively moving towards a new timeline, a new world. Okay? A new world, a new earth, whatever you want to call it. And you see, the AI, the powers that be, dirty, rotten reptilian toad terrors, they don't like that. You become a threat to the system. That's right, you become a threat to the system, and more people are starting to awaken and realize what's going on here. And they can't have that, my friends. Because if we start waking up the other NPCs and the other people who have been caught in the illusion, well, they start losing their power, they start losing their control. And as people transition from that ego-based fear mentality into a love-based, non-judgmental kind of, unconditional love mentality, and start creating their own reality, well, they're not going to get the loosh they need, and this realm will obviously fall apart. So what do? Well, they have one choice left. That's to get rid of you. So how do they get rid of an eternal divine spark? which is who we all are. Well, my friends, through the process of what we call ascension, that's why we're approaching the end of a cycle. And the way this simulation works out, it's kind of like a game, right? That we're within, and those who are worthy, those who are the meek one shall inherit the earth, or whatever you want to say. Those who put in the work will ascend when all this end time stuff starts going on. And what that really is you're going to be filtered out of the simulation. Okay? That's right. That means you're going to be right out of this realm and right out of this universe, really, back to prime reality. Okay? Exactly how that's all going to work, I've covered that in depth on my YouTube channel. So if you want to learn more about that, if you're new to my YouTube channel, I hope you've subscribed by now. And if not, that means you've been watching my videos, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's pretty much what I had to say. That's the end goal, is to get off that 3D AI life path timeline in which you've sold your soul to, and move on to that path that you start creating your own reality, which is off that path, and eventually you'll get filtered right out of this system and go back to where you came from. And on Patreon, okay, where you get videos like this, I have the Ascend to 5D class. And you have well over 40 classes, that maybe even 50 now, I'm not even sure how many are there, where I'm guiding you through and giving you more advice. Every couple weeks there's a new one, okay? So definitely check that out. Link is down below in the description. And yeah, it's a great class, and there's a lot of great information there. Alright? Also, if you enjoy my content, you could also buy me a coffee, buy me an ice cream, whatever. I'm on that website, right? And that helps support the channel. And I'll also send you some Ascend to 5D classes to your email as a thank you, because I always like to give back. But yeah, I hope this video maybe open your mind a little bit, open your perception of the nature of our reality and the nature of the whole soul contract thing. And I think it's a fascinating topic. And I think it's fascinating how it all works. And, I think it's very important that we maybe lay off the judgment of others, because I hear it all the time. I see it all the time. And we have no idea what level of deception has enslaved or entrapped some souls here. And we're no better, because a lot of us have done the exact same thing, signing the contract. Maybe some of us haven't, but we still have even fallen victim to this system. I think a lot of star seeds and volunteers or whatever, perhaps it's possible they came here on a volunteer mission to try and help others, but the AI ended up taking them over. And maybe they got cut off from that source and got plugged into this realm, right? And then things just spiraled out of control. I'm sure that could happen too. And then they get sucked into the illusion, the deception, once they pass on too. This realm isn't an easy place, is what I'm trying to say. Even the best of the best divine sparks have gotten lost in this realm. And I know there's no excuses for some of the evil things that have happened in this realm and what some people have done. It's horrible. And these beings do need a form of punishment, for sure. That's for sure. But at the same time, when you look at it that way, they've been possessed by an even more evil entity. And I think the punishments that most people deserve, two wrongs don't make a right. I usually say that. There's a lot of hatred towards a lot of these celebrities and stuff like that, when a lot of times there's not even evidence of many of the things people are claiming. But with everybody in general, everybody, they're stuck in that ego mentality of, we need to, enact punishments in a violent manner to people. And that's something that's got to go. Yes, people need punishments and stuff, but at the end of the day, we don't want to create more loosh for the demiurge, because the demiurge wants hatred. Okay, that's what it feeds off. It wants violence. It wants all these things, because that's what keeps it alive. So we got to step out of that ego mindset of judging, of hating, and all that. And we got to rise above an unconditional love. And yes, there might need to be tough love for some of these evil individuals. And let's factor in there the elites as well. Okay, the elites as well. They're just fallen consciousness as well. But you don't fix the problem by feeding them more hatred and violence and pain. So we got to come up with new solutions to, yes, give these individuals the punishments and the consequences, but also not in a way that feeds the demiurge himself and just creates that endless loop of suffering. Okay? So that's why unconditional love is needed, and then moving to a place of tough love. And I believe the universe has a plan for these beings. Never forget, okay? Never forget that these beings follow a code, okay? They follow a code of consent. They need your consent. Why? They're afraid of something, okay? And what are they afraid of? Well, there are consequences coming for them. But the consequences are coming not in the form of demiurge consequences, because the demiurge, his form of consequences, come from a place of hatred, comes from a place of torturing, pain, suffering. The demiurge would love that, because that will just feed him up. But no, these consequences are coming from a place of unconditional love. It's coming from source. And if there's one thing that these beings hate the most and are afraid of the most, their kryptonite is love. Love is what they can't stand. They can handle the pain, the torture, the suffering, because they know that's what serves their masters. But they can't face the love at the end of the day. So that's why we need to move into that state of unconditional love. Okay? Still hold people accountable for the actions they've committed, even if they were possessed by this evil AI. Still have severe consequences, but not in a demiurge way. But we will let the divine source work through that, and I believe ultimately they will face whatever they've done in a way that's, not demiurge, but from source, whatever that may be. And once this simulation is finally over with and finally comes to an end, then these fallen spirits will face whatever consequences source has for them. But I guarantee you, it's not going to be in a place of hatred. Okay? It's going to be in a way that these beings, okay, actually learn their lesson, so they could truly transform back to the light. And that doesn't come in the form of torturing and violence and everything, okay? So a lot of people got to snap out of that mindset. It comes from a place of, yes, some consequences, like I always said, take these evil fallen beings and, imprison them, okay? They lose access to their freedoms. But rehabilitation, rehabilitation, give them books or stuff like that. I'm just using as an example. Let's say there's a bad elite who did horrible things. You take them, they lose their privileges, they have to sit there in their cell. But then you give them stuff, books, and you have people, therapists, counselors, all sorts of people coming in, and only thing they can have is stuff about love. And giving them stuff that will eventually, brainwash them into realizing the evils they've committed and realizing that the only way out of this prison is through truly feeling empathy for what you've done. to these people, okay? Or to humanity as a whole. And only then, once they get empathy within them, and they truly feel what they've been doing, and they remember where they came from, which everything came from source, then they'll truly realize the damage they've done to humanity. And then they can return to love, okay? And that is tough love. That's the mentality we have to have. Yes, there's going to be consequences, but at the same time, there needs to be unconditional love and tough love as well, because our goal is to bring these beings back to love, okay? Not to be stuck in that endless loop of demiurge karma, which is just going to produce more louche suffering for the demiurge, which he wants. So I'll end today's video on that note, alright? Just kind of somewhere I went with my rant. But I think that's something a lot of people need to keep in mind, because the more hate that you feed into this matrix towards the elites and celebrities and this and that, it's not the solution, okay? So we need to stay out of the hate and move back into the higher frequencies and let source come through. And oftentimes source can work through people, but let that give the punishments, and that will come in time for any of these evildoers. But it doesn't come from a place of violence or hatred, okay? But it does come. So that's it for today's video. Hope you guys liked it. Subscribed, liked. All the links are down below in the description. And that's it. Old LINOL signing off. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about today's video. Till next time, you guys have a good one.